everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Bench Podcast presented to you by Anchor. As always, I'm Aaron Valentino. Alongside me, as always, are Jacob Johnson and Brandon Ladd. Guys, how are we doing?
Doing good. Just got off the links. It was a crazy round out there today. Fox shifted up their coverage of the U.S. Open just to cover our back nine. It was a great round. Brett the Jet champion got the win.
Jake, please explain to everybody why you're shaking your head.
Well, one, Ladd started that conversation with, I was on the links. Instead of just like the course, that most people say is was on the course today. Two, I saw a video of Ladd getting angry today, snapped his golf club in half. So it doesn't look like you had a good day on the links, Ladd.
No, I got second. Benny Thatcher said it's the first time he's ever seen someone break something like that since Big Papi broke a baseball bat. That's the only comparison he had. So it was one of those.
Not a bad comparison. Well, things are looking up in the world. I do have to say, before we get into today's episode, the stay-at-home order in New Jersey has been lifted. I haven't been outside in 3 months. I can finally go outside again. And where you guys are living, I think you guys are ready for phase 3 tomorrow, or stage 3 as they call it in New York.
Well, unfortunately, Warren County is the capital district nowadays for some reason. It's not the North Country. I don't want to get going on Governor Cuomo's
Sorry.
Yes, incompetence.
Bad decision-making?
Just doesn't care about upstate New York. But anyways, we'll be in phase 3 on Wednesday, so everything's fine. The Oswego bars open up tomorrow night. It's going to be one of the craziest scenes ever, I hear.
I heard the same thing, but like I saw like the lists, and it was like they can only have half capacity. Everyone has to wear masks. So, I mean, Oswego's looking up. I don't know about us over here. Hopefully soon enough, my restaurant.
Oswego, New York, where we all live during the school year, they are going to be in phase 3 tomorrow. Today is Thursday. So actually today, as you are hearing this gets released on Friday. So things maybe looking up. We're getting close to the end. But today we got a little bit of a different sort of episode for you. Not a ton of news this week, other than the MLB draft was last night and Rob Manfred still being NASCAR. And Rob Manfred still being kind of stupid. We thought it'd be fun if me, Jake, and Brandon, we haven't talked about the NFL in quite some time, if we assessed where our 3 teams are right before training camp. So that's the Jets for me. Jake is representing Big Blue for the Giants. And then Ladd, as you can see by his background, if you're watching this on YouTube, is a big, big Cowboys fan. So today we're going to take a look at a couple different topics, and we're kind of going to discuss where each team is at heading into training camp as it starts soon. Brandon Ladd tweeted out that he's got the notepad ready. Brandon, you seem to have come prepared.
I am prepared. What's my first talking point here? I can go in any direction.
So I think we're going to start with the first thing on our list here is who's their competition. And obviously I think we should start with the NFC East since the Cowboys and the Giants are both in the same division. So you look at the NFC East, you have the Cowboys, who are actually not the defending champs of the division, with the Eagles beating them out last year. Then we have the Cowboys, of course the Giants, and then the lowly Redskins, who are at the very bottom so far. So Ladd, we'll kind of start with you. With the Cowboys, do we still feel confident they're going to win this division?
I do feel confident they're going to win this division. Not to hark on Andrew Cuomo here, but a quote from his briefing today. He said, with COVID-19, we basically closed the barn door after the horse was out. And I was like, oh, interesting analogy. That's how I felt with Jason Garrett, who should have been fired 4 years ago. We finally closed the barn door in 2020 when the barn door should have been closed in 2016 because the 8-8 horse was already down the road eating the grass in the neighbor's lawn. So that's how I feel about Jason Garrett keeping his job till 2020. But Mike McCarthy comes in, new guy. So new system. He took a year off. He ended kind of shaky with Aaron Rodgers up in Green Bay. So really mixed signals on him. He took a year off, though, to study film, study analytics. So people are really high on this Cowboys offense. So it's an even year. 2014, 2016, 2018, the Cowboys have made the playoffs and won the division. So I have a solid feeling in 2020 they will easily pass the Philadelphia Eagles, who are continued to be hurt by the Carson Wentz contract, where they just have no skill position talent. So starting there, we'll start there. I easily have the Cowboys number one in the NFC East.
It's hard to disagree because I hate the Cowboys so much, but I think the Eagles are going to take that division. I think that the Giants are going to have a better year this year. As Ladd just said, his horse decided to, wander up the road towards the better franchise in the New York Giants and become our offensive coordinator. He's eating grass in the meadow.
That's like a word, man.
Oh, God. So we now have Jason Garrett. We have a new head coach coming from New England, worked under Bill. So we have those two new guys to work with our offense because Joe Judge is more of a special teams kind of offensive mindset guy. We have a new defensive coordinator that worked with the Packers, has worked with the Cardinals, and Patrick Graham. So a whole new coaching staff for this Giants team. We have Freddie Kitchens, the former Browns head coach, as our tight ends coach. So it's all new for this Giants team. We got Daniel Jones coming into his second year. He had a decent first year, but fumbling and ball security was really an issue for him. I think that is something that he really knows that he can't be an NFL quarterback if he continues to fumble the ball like that. So he said that was his number one point going into the offseason and mindset to fix that. Competition-wise, I would say, I think the Giants will probably finish third. I think that they'll be a little ways ahead of the Redskins. I think the Redskins are pretty below the pack, and that they're not really going to be too much to work with. I think another part of the Giants' competition is, those other middle of the pack teams, the Rams, the Bears. They're all going to be kind of jockeying for draft position and maybe a wild card position, especially since the NFL added the two new ones this year. So I think that that's going to be a big deal, and that if the Giants really, I'll say, overestimate kind of what I think they're going to do, then they definitely could be looking at a wild card spot. But that would have to come with Daniel Jones really fixing the ball security issues, the Giants' offensive line being 100 times better, the defense really stepping up, and the coaching staff doing a better job. So I would say that Giants finished third in the NFC East. I have the Eagles taking it, and I think that the Cowboys it'll be like a game back, and it probably will come down to the final few weeks of the season.
I think when you look, getting back to the Cowboys, I think when you look at the Cowboys and you I think the biggest thing is, of course, Jason Garrett being gone. He kind of held that team back for a very long time. He had a roster that probably not only should have won the division, but should have won the division by a pretty good margin. Dak Prescott, for some reason, is advanced stat god. He always seems to do enough to win, and he's got weapons around him. Amari Cooper's going to be there for a long time now. Michael Gallup really proved himself last year as a very good number 2 wide receiver. And then they got CeeDee Lamb this year in the draft, who just somehow fell into Jerry Jones's lap. This Cowboys offense has a chance to be explosive with Mike McCarthy. And if I'm being completely honest, I think they could run away with this division because I don't feel confident in the Eagles. The organization, since Joe Douglas left, not to toot my own horn as a Jets fan here, but Joe Douglas really kept that franchise in order. And even by looking at the way the Eagles drafted this year, you could kind of tell there's a little bit of dysfunction going on there. Carson Wentz doesn't really have a whole lot of weapons over there. The defense is okay, not great. And moving over to the Giants now, the Giants, they didn't make, a ton of significant upgrades. I think you look at Andrew Thomas, I think he is the highest floor of any of the big 4 tackles that went in the draft this year. So I think he could come in for the Giants and make an immediate impact for Joe Judge and Daniel Jones and company. And this offense also, has a chance to be explosive. Anytime Saquon Barkley, who is going into his 3rd year, and he is already one of the top running backs in the league, I think they could overtake the Eagles. And if I'm being completely honest, with the way Jones played last year, the defense scares me a little bit for the Giants, but I just flat out don't feel confident in the Eagles. Jake, what do you agree with me on that?
I would agree with you to a sense about the fact that they did have a really poor draft. Taking Jalen Hurts was definitely a weird move that none of us really saw coming. And I completely agree about the Saquon part. Is if he can stay healthy this year, he could run away with Offensive Player of the Year, maybe even MVP if he has that caliber of a year. I know you have Lamar Jackson. I know you have Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes. Those
Any
big
quarterback in general.
yeah. So, but I think if Saquon can do what we saw his rookie year, really explode off the ball, really hit his gaps really hard and bounce out when he needs to, I think that he could be a really, really good player for this team this year and really carry them to overtake the Eagles. But I think it all has to start with Daniel Jones in the ball security. And he knows that. He said it multiple times, that his main focus this offseason was to protect the football. He didn't throw a countless number of interceptions that you would really think for a rookie quarterback. It was just the fact that he would get hit and he didn't tuck the ball away like he should have, and it was on the ground once he got sacked. The fumbling was a problem, and I think that Joe Judge also knows that, and Jason Garrett, and that they've already been working on it with him to say, hey, we can't have this happen. And if it does continue to happen, you're going to be looking at the bench, and we're going to be having Colt McCoy start as our quarterback.
You have a good point there, Jake, where the Giants are really ball security away from maybe even having a chance to catch up to the Eagles. I'm really worried about the Eagles' offense. Starts with the second-round pick of Jalen Hurts. It seems like the team, as you said, Aaron, it just seems like they have different agendas going on. Different people have different mindsets of what should happen. But I felt like they needed to take 2 or 3 wide receivers because it's just no talent in the skill positions because of what Carson Wentz's contract has taken away from this team. But I believe Jason Garrett's going up to the Meadowlands with a real motivation that he got wronged in Dallas because he did a lot of good stuff in Dallas. As bad as I can talk about him, it takes a lot of talent to make it 14 years in a Dallas offense. As we forget, he was the offensive coordinator for 5 years before he became the head coach. He, as the offensive coordinator, Tony Romo in TO led the Cowboys to a 14-2 season. So he's very talented as a play caller, something he's got away in past years, but now he's got that duty back. I really think the Giants can push the Eagles for that second position in the division, could even push the Cowboys if they have a down year.
So overall, kind of rounding out this topic on the Giants and the Giants and the Cowboys, since they're in the same division, I mean, I think you still got to give it to the Cowboys just because the roster, again, is so talented, and Jason Garrett is now gone. They've even got some upgrades this past offseason. The Eagles worry me a ton. The Eagles' offense worries me a ton. The organization without Joe Douglas worries me a ton. Daniel Jones played great last year. Saquon Barkley has a chance to be one of the best running backs ever. He's going into his 3rd year. I like Cowboys 1. I like Giants 2. And, you know, not that we're doing really division rankings, but I would put these 2 teams at the top of their division in kind of a weaker division. If the Giants maybe were in another division, even if the Cowboys were in another division, because you just don't know, maybe you could have them lower. But because of the division not being great, I think you have to put these teams at 1 and 2, lad.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I've heard projections of the Cowboys winning 14 games. I've heard projections of the Cowboys winning 7 games. It's just an unknown with a new head coach. Mike McCarthy has struck gold. A quick stat I want to throw at you. I was trying to save it, but I don't know if it's going to come up again. The 2011 Saints had a record of 7,474 yards for total yards in a season. Best offense ever. The 2013 Broncos with Peyton Manning are a close second. The 3rd best offense of all time, people are going to forget about this, 2019 Cowboys. The 2019 Cowboys that won 8-8, 6,904 yards, 3rd most in NFL history. They are literally 500 yards away from being the best offense ever. That was before CeeDee Lamb shows up. That was before an offensive-minded head coach showed up. That was before a probably improved offensive line shows up. So we are really looking at a chance with the Cowboys having the best offense in NFL history, which is a weird discussion to have when a team went 8-8 last season.
Yeah, and, you know, I think that Jason Garrett went into that, you know, I think he also kind of thought he was done with the Cowboys, and that's why last year was kind of a fluke year for him. And he kind of went in that season knowing, hey, this is really a Super Bowl or bust year because Jerry Jones has my ass, and if I don't if I don't improve this year or even get deep into the playoffs, I'm gone. So I think that he had that on his mind and was really worried. One last thing I want to say about Daniel Jones is I saw a tweet yesterday that he has been down in Texas working with every single one of his receivers and every single one of the running backs with a playbook that Joe Judge and Jason Garrett have put together for him. And he's been working with Darius Slayton, Golden Tate, Saquon, Eli Penny, Ronnie Hillman. All those guys are down there with him right now, Evan Ingram. And he's been working with his targets. And there was a tweet, and Golden Tate said that Daniel Jones looks like he deserved that top 10 pick last year, and that everyone's saying that he should have went way lower. They're going to be doubted this year. So just knowing that he's already taking that captain mindset that Eli Manning left is a really good sign for Giants fans all over. And I think that if he can improve on that and do that this year, Giants fans are going to love him, and they're going to completely forget about where he was picked and all the hate that he received.
So I think you look at both these teams. We're going to get back to them, obviously, in a little bit. But they made some solid progress this offseason. But now moving over to the other New York team, the AFC East, is the New York Jets. Jets kind of had a big offseason this year, adding names like Mekhi Becton was their big draft pick, Alex Lewis, Connor McGovern, and Greg Van Roten. And, of course, George Fant, who could be or could not be in the starting offensive lineup this year. You have Sam Darnold going into season number 3, and the draft pick of Denzel Mims also coming in the third round, which I thought was super interesting and a great pick by Joe Douglas. I think you look at the New York Jets and you look at the competition in the division. Tom Brady and a ton of other people have left the Patriots this offseason. Leaving the Patriots is probably one of the biggest question marks in the NFL right now. The Bills went to the playoffs last year. Josh Allen is probably, at this moment that I'm speaking to you, is probably the best quarterback in the division. The Jets, again, I think I would have them around the Patriots just because I think they lost so much on defense, and Tom Brady was around that offense for so long. And then I think the Dolphins, while they made significant progress this year, I still think they're at the bottom. I still think they have a little bit more to go before they can start competing. Brandon, I'm really interested to hear what you think about the New York Jets and the competition in the AFC East.
I think you are in a good position after redoing your offensive line. When I say good position, I think you can be competitive with all 4 teams in the division. I think all 4 teams are going to be good. I think how the schedule falls, how teams really develop into themselves is really going to answer how the season goes. Everyone wants to say the Bills are going to be a runaway team. It's the Buffalo Bills. I don't think they have a proven track record. I think Josh Allen could take a step back. I'm not sold on his decision-making. I saw a guy lateral a ball back in Houston. I've never seen that in an NFL playoff game with 50 seconds left during a 2-minute drill, literally lateraled the ball back behind himself. So I've never seen that before. So I'm not sold that the Bills are a proven project. Belichick, Stidham, we don't know how that's going to work out. Belichick, Hoyer, we don't know how that one's going to work out. You don't know what's ever going to happen with Bill Belichick. But I know they're going to be a fundamental team that's going to be able to win games and stay in games. And then Miami, I'm really interested when Tua Tagovailoa is going to be able to touch the ball. That's going to really dictate what Miami's going to be able to do with their expensive defense now, all the changes they made. So the Jets are in a good position. Every team is not proven. You can say the Bills are going to be a runaway, but I'm not sold on them. So I think the Jets could win the division. I think the Jets could win 3 games. I think the Jets could win 10 games. It's one of those years because we don't know what's going to happen. So definitely going to be interesting seeing where the Jets end up. I think they're one of those teams that could be a top 5 pick next year or win a playoff game. It really has a vibe of a team that was coming together. Aaron, I'll throw it back to you quick. Watching those final games of the season last year, even November, December, even the game they beat the Cowboys, Sam Darnold knew what he was doing. So it seemed like the Jets were going in the right direction.
I think the biggest thing from last year, the biggest takeaway from last year is, going into a new season with a new head coach and a brand new offense, and then getting mono the first couple weeks of the season, set the Jets all the way back to like week 8. When around the time they lost to the Dolphins. But then toward the end of the season, they started playing really well. And Sam Darnold, really throughout his first 2 seasons, has shown flashes that he can be a really good quarterback in this league. I think a full year of staying healthy and a brand new offensive line is really going to help him. I think Sam Darnold, granted he's the quarterback, so it's kind of obvious, but I think he's the key to the Jets season this year, Jake.
Yeah, and, it's really hard to look at this division because I'm not a huge Jets fan, obviously, but I think if I had to do my top 4 right now, I think that the Bills, as Ladd said, he doesn't think they'll run away. I really think they will. Not per se run away, but I think that they're going to have a 3 to 4 game lead over first. I think that Josh Allen, I've seen a few videos of him working out. He looks really good. Maybe the mindset's not there, but that was a mistake that I think a young player laddering the ball in a playoff game, I think that's something that he'll never, ever do again.
I'll never do it again.
Yeah, I think that they're going to really win this division by a few games. Then it's going to be a shock, but I really think the Dolphins are going to have a huge year this year. They sent so much money on that team. It all depends when they throw in Tua, but we even saw it last year. Ryan Fitzpatrick won games for this team, and he didn't even have close to the talent that they have now. Devontae Parker, a year older, a year better. I think that you get Tua in there. The name kind of loses my mind. Who was the running back that they signed?
Oh, my God. Now I have to look it up. Ladd.
For the Dolphins?
The Dolphins signed a good running back. While Aaron looks that up, I'll continue my point. They spent so much money on this defensive side, on their cornerbacks, that it's going to be really hard for other teams.
Matt Breida?
Matt Breida, yes.
No, maybe there was – was that it?
I think there was another one, too.
All I have – I'm looking at the depth chart. All I see is Jordan Howard and Matt Breida.
Jordan Howard.
Oh, okay. Well, Jordan Howard hasn't been that great the last couple of years.
Yeah, but he's been kind of caught on a depth chart where he wasn't number one. He was really not on a team where he was that solid guy.
I believe he went to the Eagles, right? Because he was solid his first 2 seasons with the Bears. Then he goes to the Eagles, and the Eagles are really a running back by committee. And last year, Miles Sanders took over. So I think Jordan Howard's a 1,000-yard back.
I think that him on the Dolphins, and then Devontae Parker, depends when you put Tua in there. I think that's a good team. I think that their defense is solid. I think it's a good team. Then you have a question mark between 3 and 4 right now. I personally think it'll be the Jets. I think that only by maybe a game.
You don't feel confident in Belichick at all.
I'm confident in Belichick. I'm not confident in Stidham or Hoyer. I think that if they sign Cam Newton, then we got to look at this whole division over again. I think Stidham, he's going to have his kinks. He's not going to really go out there and be that quarterback that Tom Brady was. And the talent around him right now, that's kind of why Tom Brady left. He didn't have any talent around him. You're throwing in a quarterback who's never played in the NFL with no talent. I just don't think that that's going to work well. The 2 big concerns I have for the Jets right now are their cornerbacks. There is none. There is no secondary on this Jets team. That's a huge issue.
Well, we have the best safety in the NFL.
Okay.
So no secondary, no
cornerbacks. So you're going to have to cover Stephon Diggs. You're going to have to cover Devontae Parker.
Yeah, we can't do that.
So these teams have these weapons in this division that you're going to have to cover. That's one of the main issues. And the other one is, yes, they just revamped their offensive line, but most of them aren't really proven offensive linemen. They're all kind of backup offensive linemen that weren't great, but they're gonna improve this team. They're gonna be really better.
Connor McGovern was pretty good over there in Denver for a while.
Yeah, but one offensive lineman isn't gonna do it for you.
Well, Mekhi Becton's kind of improving.
Exactly.
You don't like Greg Van Roten? I thought Greg Van Roten played pretty well.
To be honest, I've never even heard of Greg Van Roten.
Okay, well, there you go.
So I think that the Jets take 3rd place in this division, but I think that they go 6-10, 5-11, and I think that the Patriots either go 5-11 or 4-12.
Again, I think the biggest – again, I agree with the cornerbacks. We're not going to be able to cover Parker. We're not going to be able to cover Diggs. We're not going to be able to cover Edelman either. No matter who's throwing the ball, we're still not going to be able to cover Edelman, who is one of the best route runners in the league. So, yes, that's a big concern for me. You know who I do have faith in, though? Greg Williams, who played this defense with a bunch of third stringers and went 6-2 at the end of the season. Granted, they weren't playing great teams, but the Jets were playing second and third stringers pretty much the whole year, besides Jamal Adams and Marcus May, who were pretty much healthy the entire year. C.J. Mosley was gone. Quinnen Williams wasn't 100% of the time. So I think the biggest question mark is obvious. The cornerbacks is always going to be a question mark just because of the talent level of receivers in the AFCs, especially with the addition of Diggs. But it's Sam Darnold, and he hasn't proven himself the last 2 years. He's thrown a ton of interceptions. He's been injured. Now, granted, mono is definitely a fluke thing, and that there's no way that can happen again. But he had the thumb injury early on his rookie season. You don't know, how well that's going to hold up really throughout his career. I mean, Sam Darnold's just such a big question now for the Jets, and I do believe he could be a superstar quarterback in this league. I have seen this man make crazy plays on a football field. It's just not consistent. And I think the big key for the Jets this year is Sam Darnold being consistent. No matter what offensive line he has. And granted, the receivers are also a big problem, but this is kind of a growing year. I think Denzel Mims could be big for the Jets, but I don't feel confident that Jamison Crowder, he's listed as the number 2 receiver. I honestly think James Crowder is the number 1 receiver for the New York Jets right now, which is not a good thing to say. Jamison Crowder should only be considered a slot receiver. It's definitely a big question mark, but I think the big key is if Sam Darnold can make it work, the Jets can definitely win a couple games. But moving on now to our next topic is the biggest improvement era. Now, all these teams missed the playoffs this year. The Cowboys maybe by a little bit, but they all did miss the playoffs this year. So here I kind of want to go to the Jets and the Giants just because they had similar things that they had to upgrade in the offensive line. Jets obviously made a couple of different signings and a big draft pick to upgrade their offensive line. The Giants added Andrew Thomas. Jake, did they add anybody else significant to the offensive line?
They did not, but they have Nate Solder coming back from an injury. They have Spencer Pulley coming back from an injury at center. Just a lot. John Halapio coming back from an injury at center. A lot of the guys got hurt, early in the last year. Halapio tore his Achilles. So I think that this Giants offensive line is going to be much improved.
Yeah, I think both could be. And the Giants and Jets are really in a similar spot where they're in a huge market. They both have super young quarterbacks, and they're both looking to protect those super young quarterbacks. So, Lat, I'm going to go to you as the kind of unbiased person in this conversation. Did both these teams make significant strides to protect their young quarterbacks?
Whenever you use a first-round pick for a position group, you're making a significant stride. There's no bigger stride you can make unless getting your checkbook out and signing somebody for $20 million a year. It just doesn't happen at the left tackle position, the right tackle position. Becton and Thomas will make an immediate impact. I must say, though, the Giants played it pretty safe. I'm pretty happy with them playing it safe. 3-year guy in the SEC. I know Andrew Thomas can block. I know he can get the job done. Even though, was he worthy of the number 4 overall pick? Probably not. But I know he will be a solid starter. Becton, I'm not so sold on his footwork. I'm not so sold on everything. But if he gets it together and that 365-pound body is motivated, oh my God, that might be one of the most prolific offensive lineman players of all time. So you guys both took strides in the right direction. Do I think you guys solved your issues? It takes a lot of time and chemistry for an offensive line to come together.
The other thing that I would want to say about the Giants, we did improve our offensive line. We also drafted 2 other guys, Matt Pert from UConn and Shane Lemieux from Oregon. We also improved our, cornerbacks. We got James Bradbury. So I think that that's a huge pickup for this Giants, cornerback group that was not good at all. And, we also drafted Darnay Holmes from UCLA. So I think that we improved our offensive line, we improved our cornerbacks. It's just going to be a matter of whether they perform or not.
I think you look at both. I think Andrew Thomas was a good pickup for the Giants just because, this offense is an offensive line away from being a fully operational Death Star. I mean, you just looking at the depth chart. Daniel Jones is okay at quarterback. Again, super young. We're not going to know. But then you look at it, Saquon Barkley, Sterling Shepard, Golden Tate, Darius Slay, Evan Ingram, who in my opinion may be a top 5, top 6 tight end in the NFL. They're really an offensive line away from this offense being very, very good. They bring in Jason Garrett this year, who is questionable, but maybe with a little bit less pressure on him as an offensive coordinator, he'll do a little bit better. You look at the Jets. While the Giants had some injuries and they made a few upgrades, this line is brand new. The only one coming back is Chuma Edoga, who might even be replaced by George Fant, who a lot of people are kind of questioning. I think the biggest thing for the Jets is Brian Winters is no longer the starting offensive lineman on this team. Brian Winters doesn't deserve to be in the NFL, and he was starting for the New York Jets last year. I like Becton. Obviously, the back is going to concern anybody with a 365-pound man. I like Connor McGovern actually a lot. Alex Lewis and Greg Van Roten could be very good additions to this team. And I think you look at both of these New York teams, and the offensive line upgrades that they made were significant. And I think both of these teams could be exciting because 2 young quarterbacks in any market is exciting. In Cincinnati, it's exciting. I'm excited to watch Joe Burrow go play with that crappy Bengals team just because I want to see how he does. So I think for the Jets and the Giants, I think these are 2 exciting young offenses that really made strides this year to protect their guys. But now I'm going to hand it over to Lad. Lad, what did the Cowboys need to upgrade this offseason, and did they do it?
They needed to upgrade their secondary and their interior defensive line. They definitely did it on the interior defensive line. I think it's going to be the meanest interior defensive line since it featured Jay Ratcliffe about 10 years ago. You bring in Gerald McCoy, a 5-time Pro Bowler, I believe, and Don Tyree Poe, who is one of the biggest defensive tackles in the league, both aging, but they're definitely going to bring a meanness to the 4-3, both over 320 pounds. It's a lot more weight in the middle for them. And I think anything over Antoine Woods and Malik Collins is an improvement. The secondary, though, it's a money win because they weren't going to re-sign Byron Jones. The Dolphins signed him for about $18 million per year. That just wasn't in the Cowboys' cards. You can't have a position like that with that much money. Jeff Heath, the heavy hitter for past years, everybody loves Jeff Heath. He wasn't great in coverage, so he's gone. Clinton Dix comes in. I'm a big Clinton Dix guy. A lot of people see him as a journeyman, but with a name like Clinton Dix, you got to get behind him.
Jake, I'm not laughing. I'm laughing at Jake's reaction to Lad saying Clinton Dix like 3 times in a row.
Well, when you have a guy like Clinton Dix, you've got to expect your secondary to improve. And Clinton Dix, is definitely going to be a guy that helps the secondary. They also bring Trayvon Diggs in. I can't do anything funny with a name like Trayvon Diggs. Stephon Diggs' brother out of Alabama. He came in as a second-round pick this year. I think the secondary's improved. Something to watch out for, a hole that developed and then kind of got filled by an alcoholic. This is one of my favorite storylines ever. You guys are both looking like, where are you going here, you alcoholic? But Robert Quinn goes to the Bears for $20 million per year. That wasn't going to happen. Alden Smith, who has been arrested in multiple airports for gun charges, domestic battery, and everything, terrorist charges, known alcoholic, everything. He's coming back. He's back. He's the new Cowboys defensive end. I think they filled that spot. I think he's a guy that can get 10-plus sacks again. People believe he's off the drugs. He's off the alcohol. So I got to believe them. Jake, you're shaking your head like
I don't think so because he's been arrested so many times. I just don't think he's turned it around. But, to go with your point, Lad, I think that I think that they definitely did shore up that interior defensive line. I thought Malik Collins was good, but, he wasn't the starter caliber that the Cowboys needed to really, especially in this division when you have Saquon Barkley and you have a guy like Miles Sanders. You need someone to push in the middle there and get the pressure. I still think that the secondary is a little questionable just because you lost Byron Jones. With I think that he's going to do a good job, and it's going to be interesting to see how Trayvon Diggs plays, especially in that Cowboys defense. So they definitely shored up both positions, but if I had to pick one where they're still a little, weary of, it's probably their secondary.
I think you look at the Cowboys, and again, I could talk about the Cowboys offense all day just because I've talked to Lad about the Cowboys offense so many times where I feel like Lad and I could do a 40-page analysis on the Cowboys offense. You look at their defense, though, it's very good. It's elite. Again, I think Jason Garrett is a lot of the reason that this team was held back from missing the playoffs this year. Guys like DeMarcus Lawrence, Clinton Dix, Xavier Woods, Jalen Smith, Vander Esch. That's how you say his name, right, lad? Vander Esch. All of them are very good players. All of them could make Pro Bowls. I think it's a matter of them finally coming together. That is going to set the Cowboys apart and make them the top dog in the NFC East this year. Jerry Jones is a winner. He made strides to upgrade this team. He upgraded the defense. He was even able to upgrade the offense this year with CeeDee Lamb. I think they did a great job of what they did, and I'm kind of excited to see them play if both of these sides, if the offense and the defense can come together and string a couple of wins together. It's going to be a lot of fun to see. One of the other interesting things about these three teams is all of them, not necessarily the Cowboys. Cowboys, Dak's been around the block a little bit. But a lot of them, all three of them have relatively young quarterbacks. The Jets with Sam Darnold, the Giants with Daniel Jones, and, of course, the Cowboys with Dak Prescott. So, guys, let's kind of go around here and talk about each of these three quarterbacks. And, Jake, we're going to start with you. What do you think overall about these three quarterbacks and how do they kind of stack up?
I'll start with my team here in the Giants. I already kind of mentioned that Daniel Jones has been working really hard this offseason and that he's been, meeting with his teammates already. His virtual offseason programs, Joe Judge said he has been doing them to a max, and that he has, really taken over the leadership as this team. It's a really bright future, especially with Saquon, Daniel Jones, Darius Slayton, Evan Ingram, all really young guys. Sterling Shepard's even still young, for that kind of caliber receiver. I guess Golden Tate's really the only old one, but he still plays at a high level. So I think that Daniel Jones, he's really going to come into himself this year, especially with everything that Joe Judge and Jason Garrett have been saying about him, all the pros that he's been, putting on. I think that Daniel Jones is really going to exceed expectations for a lot of the people in the league and take this league by, storm. Moving over towards the other New York team and the Jets, I would say that, last year was kind of scary for a Jets fan hearing, that your quarterback has mono. The year before as a rookie, he had thumb issues, and thumb issues for a quarterback don't really go away. It's really hard, especially, when he had it on that throwing hand. Drew Brees has had the same issue throughout his career. He's had 2 thumb surgeries. So thumbs for a quarterback are really hard to kind of get away from, especially as a quarterback. And the other thing that kind of, scares Jets fans from last year was the fact that Sam Darnold said he was seeing ghosts one game. That can't be good to hear as a Jets fan. So I think that we will see Sam Darnold this year, as Daniel Jones, kind of exceed expectations. I think that he'll play not at a high caliber, but I think that if you're grading it A through F, I think that he could be a B quarterback this year. I think that, the Jets don't really have the greatest weapons around him is the other issue. Aaron kind of mentioned that Jamison Crowder's really their number one, and Denzel Mims is a rookie. So without really having that great a talent around him, I know you have Le'Veon Bell, but that's more of a hand off the ball kind of option. I think that Sam Darnold's going to have a good year, but it's not going to be as great as people are kind of hyping it up to be. But I think that he will come into his own the next few years in this league and continue to be a good quarterback for the Jets. Moving on to Dak Prescott. I guess I don't even know where to start. I'm not a huge Cowboys fan, obviously, but take bias away, I'm still not a huge Dak Prescott fan. You know, me and Vlad have had our conversations about Dak Prescott, the good, the bad, and the evil with him. And that, you know, early in his career, he had those interception issues. But Jerry Jones did a great job this year putting talent around him. They already had Gallup. They already have Amari Cooper, but they re-signed him. They took him away from the Redskins. And then you go out and get arguably the best wide receiver in the draft. You can't mess that up, Dak Prescott, can you? I'm sure he can find a way to, but I personally don't think he's going to. So the future's bright for all three of these teams here. And if I had to rank them right now, I would probably go Dak Prescott, Daniel Jones, Sam Darnold.
Okay, I'm going to take that negative baton right from Jake and start with Dak Prescott, who he's like a money-hungry quarterback right now. It's one of the most bizarre things I've ever seen in my life. Most people don't know this, but the franchise tag for a quarterback actually pays the guy good money. It isn't like he's on welfare. So he's making $31 million to throw the ball behind receivers this year in Dallas, which is fine. He puts it on enough guys, and he has so much talent. And Dak Prescott, as a fourth-round pick, is never going to be a guy that's going to be able to do it on his own. He's not an Aaron Rodgers. He's not a Russell Wilson. But if you give him the talent, and this might be the most talented offense of all time, I don't think we can state that enough. These skill position players in offensive line, this might be the greatest combination of all time. You can't mess this up. As you said, Jake, it would be impossible to mess up. I think I could put it on some people a few times during the game. So Dak, you can say what he wants to. He's money hungry. He needs to stop acting like he's broke. He's coming back down to earth. He did a great thing the other week. I got to give it to him. He gave a $1 million donation to Dallas area Black Lives Matter campaigns and fundraisers. So that was good. That showed me, okay, this guy still has some humility. He knows what he's up to. But when the Cowboys haven't made it to a NFC championship game since 1996, and only the Redskins and Lions are in that category with you, something needs to change. So this is the make or break year. I think Dak can do it. If he doesn't win 13 games with this offense and they don't make it to the NFC championship game, which is very hard to do when you have New Orleans and Green Bay and San Francisco and Seattle, and the list goes on and on and on, as it's been haunting me for the past 15 years of watching Cowboys games. So thank you for joining me in my rant here. But anyways, Dak Prescott this is the make or break here. So that's where I'm at with Prescott. He can get the job done. I believe in him. Darnold, he's guessing. I watched him in one of the greatest Rose Bowls of all time against Penn State and Trace McSorley. And it was an amazing game back and forth, and Darnold was able to pull through at the end. They were running the RPO offense. I really thought that was going to change this year with Gase coming in from the Dolphins, who was really about RPO concepts with Tannehill all his years with the Dolphins. But no, instead, Darnold is seeing ghosts. He isn't reading the defense. Aaron, you got to agree with me. He isn't seeing the defense. He's guessing. That's why moments are good and moments are bad.
Oh, yes, I agree. His decision-making at times is very questionable. He sees ghosts, apparently. I think, but I'll get to my point with Darnold in a little bit, but continue. I do agree. His decision-making isn't great.
And then Daniel Jones, as much as I hate the Giants, and Jake has stated his bias with the Cowboys, so I might as well just throw it right back across the yard here. But Daniel Jones is an inspirational story. It gives me vibes of Kristaps Porzingis, a top 10 pick in a major sports draft. As Jake just rolls his eyes and goes, how does the 7'3" unicorn remind you of Daniel Jones and give you vibes about that? But it does, because you remember there was Knicks fans crying. Stephen A. Smith was crying. Everyone was crying. They were saying Phil Jackson was on crack. They were saying he was on crack. So, and look how KP ended up, and then they traded him away because it's the Knicks. But anyways, Daniel Jones reminds me of that because nobody gave him a shot at number 6. It should have been somebody else with that number 6 overall pick, and he is proving everyone wrong. So that's why I think Daniel Jones and Jason Garrett are going to do great together. So if I had to go through an order right now, it would go Prescott, Jones, Darnold. If I had to go into the future, it would go Jones, Prescott, Darnold. I think Darnold needs to learn how to read a defense. I think Daniel Jones's motivation and ball security is going to be the key to his success. And I think Dak Prescott needs to realize he is the most replaceable quarterback in the whole entire league, and that his ass will be packing if they go 8-8 again this season.
So aggressive.
But before I get to Sam Darnold, let me start with Daniel Jones. I like Daniel Jones. And the two of them can vouch for me that I've said that the entire season. I was on the Giants hype train. I love the Giants' future of the offense, and I like Daniel Jones. Is Daniel Jones gonna have superstar potential? Possibly. Does he have a very good offense around him? Yes. I think for me, Daniel Jones is just a big question mark because some people had him as a second rounder. The Giants took him at 6, and he played very well this year. So for him going into his second year, I like Daniel Jones, and I think he played a little bit better than Sam Darnold last year. But I think he's just such a big question mark because nobody really knows where he's going. And also, this is a very good offense that Daniel Jones has around him. And when you have Saquon Barkley, you could do a lot of things with that as a quarterback. Dak Prescott is an anomaly to me in the quarterback world. When you look at him visually and you watch him every week, you're like, he's okay. He's not great. His arm isn't good. Maybe not bad, but it's not the greatest. The weapons around him are incredible. Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, CeeDee Lamb, and someone we haven't mentioned the whole episode, Ezekiel Elliott, a top 5 running back in the NFL probably. So he's helped out a lot by that. But for some reason, the advanced stats love him. Every advanced stat loves Dak Prescott for some reason. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just a complete idiot and Dak Prescott could go on to be one of the greatest quarterbacks ever. So I think for Dak, he's got a bright future ahead of him, one, because Mike McCarthy is now his coach for the foreseeable future. He's got a great offensive line, like he did his rookie season. He has great weapons and an awesome running back and a very good defense behind him. So I think Dak Prescott right now, out of everyone, has the brightest future. We don't know where the Jets or Giants will end up because they're still sort of in a rebuilding phase. Right now, Prescott has the brightest future. Sam Darnold has not played well the first 2 years. I will give you that. His rookie year, the last couple weeks of the season, he looked great. But his sophomore season, it's kind of a hard reset. You get a new head coach. You get a head coach with a entirely different scheme and a very hard scheme. Adam Gase's offense is very complicated. And to learn the ins and outs of it while you have mono, while you're just a 21-year-old kid, while your offensive line is terrible, while you have no weapons around you besides Le'Veon Bell, that's tough to do. Granted, his decision-making has been very bad, like very, very bad. I have seen him make throws that I wouldn't have made on a football field. And I can't play quarterback at any level. I couldn't play quarterback in the backyard. So Sam Darnold's decision-making isn't good, but his offensive line has been terrible. He has no weapons. Jamison Crowder is his number 1 receiver right now. And that just says something. I don't know what Denzel Mims is going to be. I'm hoping Denzel Mims develops into a superstar. But I'll say this about Sam Darnold. I have seen this man in just 2 years of football, not even 2 full seasons, 2 years where he's been out with injuries from time to time and where he's seen ghosts against Tom Brady and company. I have seen this man do things in a football field that I have seen people like Russell Wilson make plays like Russell Wilson makes, like Aaron Rodgers makes. Sam Darnold is a playmaker. And if he can get that decision-making down, this is it. This is the guy that the Jets have for the future and could be a superstar. If I had to rank all three of them right now, I would say Dak Prescott, and then I would say Daniel Jones and Sam Darnold are tied at the moment. Daniel Jones has ball security problems. Sam Darnold has decision-making and interception problems. To me, they were about the same. And I think Jones played a little bit better than Darnold this year. Future-wise, I think, again, Sam Darnold's just such a big question mark because the Jets are a crap franchise, and you don't know how his decision-making is going to turn out. But I think he has the potential to live up to that third overall pick level of superstar quarterback. And I think Dak Prescott and Daniel Jones will be very good and have chances to win Super Bowls in their career. So that's my rant on Sam Darnold. I hope you guys enjoyed. Do you agree with anything that I said, or am I just batshit crazy?
No, I would say I agree on the fact that he has great potential. Kind of the same way Daniel Jones with the ball security issues is Sam Darnold with the interceptions and decision-making. If he can get that down, I still think that the Jets need to form something better around him. They need to form at least a clear-cut number one. They don't have that.
No, they don't. They haven't had that in a while.
You can say Jamison Crowder, but at the same time, you look at these other teams we're talking about. I mean, the Giants have really two. You have Golden Tate, you have Sterling Shepard, and the Cowboys have three with Gallup, Cooper, and, CeeDee Lamb. So I think that if the Jets can maybe build around him better, they did a good job with the offensive line. Props to the Jets for doing that. If they can next year in the draft, next year in free agency, sign a clear-cut number one, maybe get a decent top 10, top 15 tight end in the league, I think that building around him will make Sam Darnold a better player, and that's where we'll see the superstar talent or star talent even come in with the future in the ownership building around him.
I'm with you there. Aaron, who was the last number one wide receiver for the Jets? Keyshawn Johnson?
I was going Brandon Marshall. Brandon Marshall in 2015.
Ooh, washed up.
I was going to say,
granted, that season, Decker. I think, yeah. Well, Decker technically was the leading receiver, but Marshall was the I don't necessarily want to say superstar receiver, but he was the guy. He was the guy that everybody knew.
A season of Santonio Holmes?
Yes, Santonio Holmes also. He was a little bit older. The Jets have had a history of quality wide receiver duos. You look at the year they went to AFC Championship back-to-back years. You look at Santonio Holmes and Braylon Edwards. 2015, when they almost made the playoffs, you have Brandon Marshall and Eric Decker. So, again, it's about getting that guy for Sam Darnold, and they don't have that right now. Hopefully, Denzel Mims will develop into it. I don't know if he will. I can't lie to you. I thought Joe Douglas made a lot of upgrades at offensive line, and I wanted CeeDee Lamb. I wanted him really bad. But
it's tough now. You are going against I would feel really bad being a quarterback in the division you are, because you have the three best cornerbacks in the whole entire league now in that division, with Byron Jones, Stephon Gilmore, and Tre'Davious White. There's no question about that. Those are the three best covered corners in the whole entire league. So I don't think you're going to have to be throwing it to tight ends and fullbacks to even move the ball this year in the division, because you don't have a receiver to go against them.
I agree with you in that, and then we're going to wrap this up. I agree with you that this could be a year, you said it earlier in the show, this could be a year where the Jets win 3 games, or this could be a year where the Jets make that last playoff spot. It's that up in the air. They have a lot of question marks, but a lot of those question marks could turn into exclamation points. But guys, that's going to do it for episode 11 of the Bench Podcast. A little bit of a longer one, but Brandon and I, and Jake too, we wanted to do kind of funner's not a word, but a funner episode for the three of us. I had a lot of fun. I hope you guys did too.
Yeah, for sure. Just a quick note for our viewers. Make sure you're writing your congressman, wearing your mask. Make sure you are supporting your quarterbacks. And everyone have a safe, and thank you, Jake. Everyone have a safe and beautiful, what month is it, June?
We are in June.
It'll be like a June 12th weekend.
That is going to do it for us here at the Bench Podcast. For Brendan Ladd, Jacob Johnson, I'm Aaron Valentino. Have a great rest of your quarantine weekend.